Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Theme of today's show, everybody's a victim. Oh my gosh, the victim stuff. This hit me all weekend as I was seeing different news stories come out. All the way from Tom Brady and Gisele's divorce to real estate investors and money being too expensive and all this other stuff. Everybody's a victim. It's just absolutely, it's probably the worst mindset to have, is a victim mindset. I just don't get it. I'm watching this thing, and I'm in a couple of different Facebook groups for football stuff. NFL Memes is one of them. It's a great group. It's hilarious. And so there's been a lot of talk about Tom Brady's impending divorce. The way the articles are written, it's already done, or maybe it isn't, or vice versa. Just to give you an idea, Tom Brady's worth a couple of bucks as one of the best quarterbacks who've ever played football. And his wife, Gisele, I think they've been together, 15, 20 years, something like that. I know it's more than 10. And she's a supermodel, builds brands, that sort of thing. She's worth more than he is. So from a financial standpoint, that family's doing okay. Now, of course, when they got married, I think they got married in, I don't know, we could probably pull that up. She knew exactly who she was marrying, right? She's marrying Tom Brady, right? No, this guy is going to give it his all when it comes to football. So the rumor on the street is when he retired earlier this year and then unretired, that was kind of the last straw. Now, we don't really know what's going on. I'll just tell you that. We don't really know what's going on. And to be quite honest with you, whatever goes on in their personal life is their choice. But what I find fascinating is the comment section. Because everyone immediately casts Gisele as the victim of this whole thing. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, you married a guy who was I think he'd already won a couple of Super Bowls at that point. You knew his work ethic. You knew who he was. Like, you knew he was going to play football until literally someone hauls his, blown out knees and shoulders off the field. He's now the most sacked quarterback in NFL history, in part because he's played so long. If you're going to play a lot of football, if you're going to play a lot of quarterback, you're going to get sacked a lot. If you have a really long career, it's just going to happen. Great example of this is for real estate investors. If you have a long enough career, you're going to have a lot of losses, but you're going to have a whole lot of wins. You're going to take home a whole lot of Lombardi trophies. That's what you get for winning the Super Bowl. You win a lot, you get injured a lot, you get hit a lot. It's just how life works. But what I found so fascinating is all these people say, "Oh my God, she's a victim. Just Tom, I can't believe it. You're destroying your family." And it's like, wait a second, hold on. You knew exactly what you were married. Come on. It's very interesting. I see the same thing in real estate. Jason, rates are going up. Cash flow's going down. I'm like, yeah, so what? Markets change. Rob and I were chatting this morning. We were talking about all of the, what we call black swan events that happened in the last 2 years. In other words, these were events that no one could have predicted. Now, you'll run into the occasional, I hesitate to use the word guru, real estate smart guy, thinks he's smart, that'll say these were totally predictable. And I'm like, no, they weren't. One was COVID shutdowns. We had no idea that they would shut down the country for as long as they did. Now, I sat in these planning committees and on the emergency preparedness side and the Texas Medical Center. And we had talked about what would happen if we had a pandemic, a big, let's say, terrorist attack. The idea was to close off all entrances to the medical center, and you would triage through Reliant. So at Reliant Stadium, you would essentially build a gigantic field hospital, which they did. If you guys remember back to the early days of the pandemic. So the idea is you would then triage these patients. So let me explain what that sounds like. In fact, Rob and I joked about this on the radio because Rob said, I'm going to get triaged. I'm going to be stuck at that stadium dying, and I'm not even going to be at the 50-yard line. They're going to give me the terrible seats. So here was the deal about triage in the medical center. The idea was you would group people by 3 classifications. One is what they call the worried well. These are people who are just really concerned about the virus. I got the sniffles. I think I'm dying. And they believe they need, real health care. So you would take those people and set them aside, set up a little field hospital to kind of take care of their needs, whatever those are, and then they would quickly be discharged. The second group of people would be those folks that are just not going to make it. We know 0 medical intervention will save this person. They're dying. We would put those people in a different section of your field hospital. The third group are the ones that are sick, that have a pretty good percentage chance of surviving, but they need medical treatment. Those folks would then be moved, medically transported into the medical center, where they could get the absolute best care in our world-renowned hospitals here in Houston. That was the original idea behind the whole COVID thing. There would be 2 weeks of, hey, let's get prepared. We're going lockdown. Like, we don't know how deadly this thing is, but no one's going anywhere. So, all right, we're all locked down. And then our healthcare staff is gearing up. We're getting all of our supplies out of storage. We're blocking off roads. The first responders are locking down certain areas of town. And we're getting ready for this big event because it's coming. Here's the reality. You can't stop it. You can slow it down, but you can't stop it. So that was a black swan, once in a lifetime event. We were in the middle of building our first fund, our first real estate portfolio, and here we get hit with this thing. What do we do? And I'll tell you, I remember looking at the data. And of course, those first 2 weeks, everything shut down. You couldn't even go to the closing company. Like, you couldn't go to the title company. In fact, you'd been reading everything. I've been seeing, the town shut down. It really didn't hit me until certain businesses started to open back up. For example, our title company. I remember one day I went to our title company and I went to Quest Trust. So I went to Patent Title and Quest Trust. I can't remember what I had to go to Quest for. Maybe I was dropping checks off or something. And I walked in, there's no furniture. I'm like, what'd y'all do with the furniture? Like, we can't have everybody sit here. And they had the plexiglass shields everywhere. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, inside of a month. Then I went over to Patent Titles, the same thing. Like, inside of a month, they had all this stuff set up. It was wild. And I'm like, okay, things have really changed here. So that was a once-in-a-lifetime event. We had never experienced before. Now, I say this with a little, I'm hoping it's not the case. I read something out of Kiyosaki's book today where he said, prophets wish they're wrong, and this is one of them. This will happen again. They've got precedent for it now. They know how to do it and do it better next time. So get ready. This ain't the first time it's going to happen. So in any case, that was a once-in-a-lifetime event that started in March of 2020. Then fast forward about a year, we had a once-in-500-year freeze here in Houston. Caused massive damage to our infrastructure. Massive damage. So that was the second Black Swan event in 12 months, 13 months. And then the next one started 6 months ago when interest rates, you got to remember, the beginning of the year, interest rates were 3 for a 30-year mortgage. Now they're 7. And when we get back from the break, we'll talk more about being the victims. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Looks like we're doing 2 shows tomorrow. Okay. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. We're talking about being the victim today. Everybody's a victim. Oh my gosh. Rates are up. There was a freeze. COVID lockdowns. Hidalgo's judge. I mean, you just kind of pick. Politics is my favorite because everyone will throw their arms up like, oh, I can't do anything about it. I'm like, then what are you worried about? Oh, they're raising taxes. Oh, we're going to war. Oh, by the way, we're going to war. That's my next prediction. We got some information this weekend. I'm like, yep, that sounds about right. Nothing fixes a recession like a good old-fashioned country whipping. I go, it sounds terrible, but it's true. Start bombing somebody else, And all of a sudden, our economy starts getting a lot better. Amazing how that happens. But anyways, we've got all these victims. So you can sit here and tell me how the market's doing this, the market's doing that. By the way, prices are still going up. And oh, by the way, active listings, like new active listings, are shrinking rapidly. In fact, nationally, they are going negative. What does that mean? That means we're going to head into what I like to call a stale market. Well, Jason, that means there's going to be all these houses for sale. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I will tell you, in the middle of the pandemic, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the numbers. Everyone is predicting real estate crash. Crash, forbearance, crash. It's all going to end. We're all going to die. Real estate, 10 cents on the dollar. And I would tell people, no. You know how I know most people's models are BS? Because they're all round numbers. Oh, Jason, it's going to be a 20% loss, 40% loss. Really? It's a perfectly round number that ends in a 5 or a 0? Man, I have been doing modeling for a long time, and that is really rare for that to happen. I mean, what did your model actually say? Was it like 47.28%? No, it's 50. You don't really have a dude, you're just shooting your mouth off. So I'm sitting there looking at the numbers during COVID, and I'm seeing showings picking up. I'm seeing the pace of sales pick up. I'm like, oh, guys, we are about to have a rapid increase in prices. Everybody said it was crazy. Guess not. So I'm out there looking on the World Wide Web for somebody that's got to be seeing the same numbers I am. And it was Logan over at Housing Wire. We will have him on the show at some point. I haven't reached out to his folks over there, but we'll have him on the show at some point. And I'm reading this guy, and it's all just numbers. Hey, guys, here's this number, this number, this number, this number. Here's all the data. And this is what it's indicating what's going to happen next. While everyone's sitting there at home watching Tiger King, trying to figure out what shoe's going to drop, the world's going to end. I'm like, I was amazed. We didn't go into a deeper recession when you shut down 90% of GDP in the most powerful economy in the world. That was the most astounding part. And the fact that some places in the country still have COVID restrictions. Hell, China just shut down another, was it Shanghai or Wuhan? They shut down another like 10 million people because they want zero COVID cases. Which I almost wonder, the conspiracy theorist in me, I'm starting to think that they're fighting the zombie apocalypse. I'm starting to wonder if that's what's really going on. If you guys have ever read the book World War Z, you should. It is one of my favorite fiction books. Not the movie. Now, the movie's decent, but the book is phenomenal. It's completely different than the movie. In fact, they tried to actually produce the movie, and they realized it was going to be too expensive. Well, what they didn't realize is they had a blockbuster on their hands. So when the movie came out, it's still to this day Brad Pitt's highest grossing movie. And they're supposed to, this is before COVID, make 3 more. And I'm hoping they follow the book because the book is spectacular. But anyways, in the book, it all starts in China. And how it all works is basically the Chinese government's trying to cover it up, literally call it like political and ethnic cleansing, like if that's not terrible. So they're trying to hide the zombie apocalypse. So sometimes I wonder, I get these reports out of China, like, we want zero COVID cases. I'm like, maybe they're fighting the zombies over there. Like, maybe that's what's going on. Anyway, so we get COVID lockdowns. We get this freeze that did a number on the plumbing supply. If you guys were trying to get plumbing fixed around your property, it took a while. And then fast forward a year later, so in the last 3 years, we got 3 black swan events. This one is interest rates. Everybody predicted rates would go up. They just didn't think it would be this fast. Doubling in months. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. Nobody predicted that. How do I know no one predicted that? In fact, no one can predict what's happening in the future with regards to rates. Because the pricing in the options and futures market right now is crazy. Like if rates go up that fast, that means they can come down just as fast. Yeah, think about that for a minute. If rates went up that fast, they can go down just as fast. It's pretty fascinating. So we could be having the same conversation this time next year where some people were a victim of interest rates and said, I'm not going to buy. I'd rather wait. Of course, waiting is going to cost you because these houses are going to be 10 to 15% more expensive. By the way, told everybody this, interest rates have nothing to do with the price of real estate. Have prices come down since interest rates have doubled? No. Oops, I guess all those guys were wrong. That would be like everybody making predictions on Facebook. Prices are still rising in certain markets. Not all of them. I'm seeing the $1 million plus home market soften a lot. Now, does it mean they're losing money? I think I told you guys a deal that I had under contract where it was easily a 15% haircut. 15% compared to 6 months ago, but compared to a year ago, they're still up. Plus, well, here's the other thing. We've got the human condition at play. People are freaked out of the unknown, like they're a victim of the unknown. Oh, probably edit that out. They are a victim of the unknown. Jason, I got to get more information. I got to get this. Hey, I don't know, man. What are interest rates going to be in 2 months? No idea. I can tell you what they're going to be in about 2 years. I have a buddy of mine works at a really big mortgage company. He said, Jason, I cannot give you the rate today until noon when I get the rate update from my guys on the trading floor. I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah, you can call me this morning. I can't give you a number. He said, I get to the point now where I don't even give people a number. That's like our corporate policy. I can give you a number at about noon today. There's too much volatility. I will tell you, this has been one of the wildest real estate markets I've ever been a part of. And it just has to do with the unknown, particularly in the mortgage market. But there's still some classic economic indicators at play. As rates go up, sales go down. Sales activity, not prices. A lot of people think sales and prices are the same. They're not. It just takes a little bit longer to sell. By the way, we're at 2.7 months of inventory in Houston. A normal market, what they call a balanced market, is 4 to 6 months. We would have to double the amount of properties in inventory to get to a balanced market. That's how crazy that number is. 2.7 is still a crazy hot market. I think it takes 18 days to sell a house instead of 14 6 months ago. Yet everyone's setting their hair on fire because they're so scared. They're a victim of any changes in the marketplace. But I got to know. I'm like, you can't know. That's part of investing. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network.
I'm just going to keep it recording whenever you're ready.
Just start up? Okay. Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Yeah, the unknown is called risk. You can't know everything. I had a buddy of mine, really successful multifamily investor. He sold all his properties in about 17, 18. And he said, look, if you're sitting there and you're buying an asset or you're buying a business and you did the best you could in figuring out where all the pitfalls were, where the, ultimately what the risk was, and you lost money, that's part of investing. I mean, you can't go back and kick yourself for it. We're having a lot of conversations in our mastermind right now, a lot of them. We're talking about syndications and just regular old deals, little apartment complexes, single family, that sort of thing. And the common complaint we're getting back is, guys, the terms on a lot of this stuff are changing. And I'm like, look, you see the marketplace? Of course terms are changing. I mean, mortgage rates are changing daily, almost hourly. Deals are changing. I mean, construction costs are all over the place. They're getting better, but still that market is wild. The reduction in new home building is going to introduce a lot of really high quality contractors into the marketplace. Can I get an A-class crew, construction crew, or I should say trade? That's really how new construction's done. Can I get a grade A trade for grade B prices? Or maybe grade B plus? Would you normally pay grade B? Would you pay grade B plus to get a grade A service? I think a lot of you would say yes, but it also increases the prices because you're paying a little bit more, but you're getting a lot more quality. It's what economists call marginal utility, meaning I can pay a little bit more and I get a lot more quality. So that's what's going on in the marketplace right now. It is all over the map. We don't know. In fact, no one does. Here's what I do know. There are so many variables at play that are all moving at once. It's really hard to say what's happening next. I'm convinced, and I know we try and stay away from politics, but let's be honest. My Facebook page has already gotten banned through the election, which, as you guys know, happens every 2 years right at this time. It starts in October. I get a notice that Mark Zuckerberg says, I don't like what you're doing, even though you've been doing the same thing for the last 2 years. And you are not able to do any live videos until after the election. I kid you not. It happens every 2 years. It's amazing. Amazing the timing. It's really the only time I get banned from Facebook. Usually it's late September, early October. Right through the first week after the election. Really strange how that works. So we've got an election coming up. The rumor on the street I heard is there was a peace deal hammered out the day before the Russians stepped into Ukraine. And the United States said, pound sand. And now we're having conversations about nuclear weapons, which is absurd. You're not going to nuke Russia? Come on. They can hardly eat over there. This is so stupid. But I guess we're going to go over there and play with those guys. Well, what a great idea. Let's go get into another war we're not going to win. And not because we can't, because we don't want to, for whatever reason. So let's throw some money and lives at it. That sounds like a great plan. I haven't seen the articles. I assume this to be true because it's true just about every conflict. I'm sure we already got guys over there already. CIA is probably running all over. I know they're in Russia. Willing to bet they are running all over the Ukraine. Willing to bet we got special forces guys all up and down that border doing their stuff. You don't send in the military without having a lot of tactical intelligence. So those guys are ripping around all over both countries, figuring out what to do next. So we're there, which I guess this just turns into another proxy war. But what's the implication for real estate? Well, gotta be a lot of money printed. The state, in particular, the city it's got a great wartime economy. A lot of folks don't know that those tanks run on jet fuel. The M1 Abrams is not diesel. It runs on jet fuel. It's essentially a jet turbine engine. I mean, you ever wondered how they get a tank that big to go 80 miles an hour? That's it. There's going to be a lot of wartime spending. We have a lot of defense contractors in Texas. All that stuff is getting spun up. For every 2 jobs created, 1 house is bought. If there's one thing that Texas has done better than any state, especially in a recession, is create jobs. And a lot of them end up here. It's here in Dallas-Fort Worth. A couple in Austin, but mostly here and in DFW. And here we are worried about interest rates. You're going to look back at this and go, just like I do this at every single event I speak at. Oh, by the way, we've got the Red Talk this week, real estate discussions. I'm going to be doing a full, I don't know, it might be 30 minutes, could be an hour. I don't know how much time Rob gave me. But I'm updating all my charts and graphs that you guys saw in February. So if you want to come to the event, it's mrtxre.com, mrtxre.com. I think we got room for 100 people. Probably be full if I were to guess. It'd be a great event. But here's what we do know. Over the long term, real estate appreciates, especially in job growth markets. I'm not talking about like the Midwest and the Rust Belt and all that. Down here in Texas, you buy, you hold on to it, you will make money. It is that simple. It's no more difficult than that. Buy, hold, wait. Now the problem is everyone's so smart who's real estate investors, they try and goofy this thing up with some nonsense they learned from some guru. You just buy it and hold on to it. But Jason, interest rates are too high. Who cares? Here's what's so funny about interest rate discussion. Well, I don't want to pay 7% for a mortgage. Well, yeah, I don't want to pay $300,000 for a Lambo, but that's not your choice. You have no control over that. You can go to Lamborghini today and say, I want to pay $150,000. And they go, you know, there's 5 guys behind you that will pay $400,000 for that $300,000 car. And you go, oh, I guess I don't have much pricing power. Exactly. The market says you're going to pay 7%. You're going to pay 7%. So one of 3 things will be true in the future. Interest rates go up, interest rates stay the same, or interest rates go down. Here's what doesn't change: the price you pay for that property. Here's what I can guarantee: the price of that rental property is going up. You will see the median home price start to waver a little bit. And all of a sudden people go, oh, the crash is coming. Crash is coming. Here it comes, crash, crash, crash. And I'm like, no, the higher end market is softening. Those prices may be coming down, which affects your median, but the houses below the median home price, which is what you are renting or Airbnb, ain't going nowhere. In fact, they're only going up. So if we assume that prices are always going up, what's the problem with interest rates? They're either going up, staying the same, or going down. Well, if they stay the same, it doesn't really matter. You bought at 77% interest, and a year from now it's 7%. So who cares? If they go up, you're going to go, whew, glad I locked in that 7% mortgage because it's now 9%, saving me a lot of money. Or in the future, they could go down. And if they go down enough, what are you going to do? You're just going to refinance. But a lot of people are just victims in their own minds. Oh, Jason, interest rates are up. Oh, there's a war in Ukraine. Oh, my God, there's an election coming. Oh, it's just all this stuff you have zero control over. Investors make decisions, period. That's what investors do. They assume risk, make decisions. You've got to ask yourself if you're an investor. This is Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. All right. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Prices of properties ain't going anywhere. Now, here's what is going to happen, and we're already seeing it. Those of you who are investors out there, let me put it this way. So Robert Kiyosaki has 6 definitions or 6 layers of investors. So Rob and I, one of the biggest mistakes we've made in our mastermind, we're correcting it right now, is when someone says they're an investor, we assume they're an investor. However, like Robert Kiyosaki says, there's really 6 different types of investors. So we were putting certain people on certain levels that didn't belong there. So now we're going through our mastermind going, all right, guys, we're going to classify you by investor type, investor class, investor level. I'm going to do the same thing with people I'm meeting with. All right, what kind of investor are you really? The professional class investor that I view us as looks at a market like this and says, there are going to be some amateur investors or even some pros that are just not going to move as fast as they could to get a deal. They're going to slow things down a little bit. Prices aren't going anywhere. It's just going to give us more time to get into the market. We're making offers on stuff right now. Now, we're not paying any less for them now than we did 6 months ago. But we're getting a look at a lot of properties that we shouldn't even have an opportunity to buy because there were so many other investors like feeding on this thing. Instead of like 50 investors on something, now there's like 5 of us. So it's kind of like in sports. When somebody takes a half step instead of a full step, and you can just zip right around them. Just a little bit of hesitation allows a professional investor to get in there, snag a deal, and get out before the other guy knows what happens. That's what's happening right now in the marketplace. So when I talk to my professional investor buddies, they tell me the same story. Yeah, man, like I'm seeing a lot more deals, but the prices really haven't come down. But I'm getting a look at a lot of things that I really couldn't, because you can only move so fast in so many different plays. This is the largest real estate market in the country. So we're getting a look at a lot of deals that we didn't really get to look at a couple of months ago because of our size and how many deals we were already doing. So now we're getting to look at some stuff where we're like, wait a minute, let's take a look at this one. Oh, and this one too. And you get more information, and then people get back to you, and you're like, wow, this thing isn't gone yet. Well, I got a couple of guys that are interested, and if I'd sold this 6 months ago, it'd be 10 of you guys instead of 5. So I'm just trying to get everybody's questions answered in a time and manner so somebody buy this thing. It's really interesting. This market has really started to, how can I put this, kind of flush out with the tide some amateur investors that shouldn't be here. And I could see it inside our mastermind and our classes where folks are asking all these questions that don't matter. And you're like, you do realize after the 10th question about, what kind of plumbing a house has, it's already gone. Like, you can be as choosy and picky as you want, but you will have very few properties that you will be able to buy. I'm having some investors send me lists of what they're looking for. Jason, I need something that cash flows the 1% rule in Katy, Pearland, Spring, Sugarland, Richmond, Woodlands, Seabrook. And, of course, the professional investors out there are laughing their butts off right now because there hadn't been anything decent in those markets at 1% in a long time. Add a 9% commercial mortgage on top of it, it ain't cash flowing. Folks who have their ear to the marketplace know what's going on. People who don't, who are not professionals in this marketplace, are confused about what's going on. Wait a minute, interest rates are going up, but there's no real estate crash. I'm like, yeah. Why would there be a real estate crash? Well, because people really have to sell. Who has to sell? Explain to me who has to sell. If you've got a massive amount of equity in your house, in fact, most of the borrowers over the last 10 years have a 720 credit score or higher. There were no liar loans. Everything was like 80% loan to value unless you're a first-time home buyer. Most mortgage payments are less than rent. This is very different than 2008. And here's the other story. I heard this the other day, and it's something nobody else is talking about. Wages are going up. I was reading an article. We ran into a gal yesterday. We were doing a little Sunday fun day stuff, went down to the Heights, ate at Presley's. Go to Presley's, chicken fried steak's amazing. That's like the best thing they have there. And then get the ice cream. But we were so full, we couldn't even eat the ice cream. So we went over to Drift, hung out there with a couple of folks. Met this other couple there. She's in healthcare, going back to school for her master's. So just for grins, I just happened to trip over an article about the nursing shortage. And it was really a discussion about how healthcare stocks are being crushed right now because they're increasing costs. One of those big increases in costs is nursing. We have like 100,000 person nursing shortage. And then the number they gave next was like $400,000 over the next 20 years. I mean, it was such an astronomical number. It didn't even make sense to me. So what's that going to cause? They're going to raise meaning the hospitals are going to continue to raise the salaries and bonuses of nurses to attract nurses. Because guess what? If you don't have nurses, you don't have a hospital. It's kind of how it works. So what we're also seeing as inflation increases, certain trades, certain skills, certain professions, their salary is rising commensurate with inflation. So if you have a mortgage locked in at 2.5%, 3% from earlier this year, or a year ago, like, what was that, September, October, you can get it in the twos of 2021, those people's mortgage is nothing. And not a lot of people did cash out refis. So you've got like 50% equity. Your mortgage is a 2 or 3% mortgage. You ain't going anywhere. Heck, you can get a barista job. You could get a Uber job and pay for that mortgage. They're not going anywhere. And Houston is chock full of energy and healthcare. It's energy, healthcare, finance. Healthcare is almost as big as energy is in this town. They're not going anywhere. So this whole idea, Jason, there's a big crash. People are losing their jobs. Interest rates are up. Like, you just sound like a victim. You sound pathetic. This is investing. Buck up like an adult. Sit down and figure out the math. All right, what can I buy? Okay, this might be negative cash flowing, but it appreciates at 10% a year. How much are you going to make over the next 5 years? That's the point of our new portfolio builder tool I put together. In fact, it's out on beta, if you will, on draft, prototype for some of our mastermind folks. And you guys sent me all emails this weekend. I got to them all this morning. So I got out the draft to everybody. I think it was like 10 or 15 y'all. So I have my Excel whizzes checking all my math in our new portfolio builder tool. Some of these deals are going to be positive. I should say positive. Some of these deals are going to be neutral or negative cash flow simply because of the interest rates. What it really is rents have not, comps are backward looking. They're not forward looking. So your rents have not kept pace with interest rates or inflation yet, but they're going to. So a lot of this stuff is cash flow neutral or negative, but it's appreciating. So you can buy it now, or you can buy it 12 months from now, and it's going to cost you 15% more. Thanks for listening. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network.